You always read a lot and see a lot in the press about the royal family being demanding or perhaps extravagant. People tend to imagine that every day it's lobster and foie gras and caviar. But Prince Charles and Princess Diana, when they're at home, they are normal people. They're just like you and I.
Carolyn, thank you so much for having us in your wonderful kitchen today. You've had an incredible career. Tell us where it all started.
I initially had an interview with Princess Diana, which was wonderful. She did with me what she did with everybody. Within seconds of meeting her, I felt completely at ease and felt, oh, this is something I don't need to worry about. Cooking at Kensington Palace really felt like cooking at home. It was very basic. We had a couple of doors that could have done with the hinges being replaced. We had the equipment that we needed, but it was by no means the latest induction hobs or anything like that.
I remember having a conversation with the Duchess of Cambridge about how important it was the kitchen would be the heart of their home. And that sounds like when you were working at Kensington Palace too.
The kitchen was the gathering place. So everybody popped in and out, and there were always other people in the kitchen, usually protection officers drinking cups of tea. And certainly there were occasions, particularly if Princess Diana was at home on her own in the evening, she'd say, oh, just leave a plate of food in the fridge for me. And I think it was nice for her as well to be able to just pop into the kitchen and help herself and have things a little more informal at times. When William and Harry were small, they loved to come into the kitchen, like all boys, just fly in for 5 minutes and make something or half make something and then fly out again. The nursery was on the floor above the kitchen, and being an old palace with wooden floorboards, you could usually hear them running around upstairs. Quite often the nanny was in hot pursuit, so it was quick, I need somewhere to hide. And we fortunately had some quite low down cupboards so we could hide Harry, except usually his giggling gave him away.
Can you tell us the story behind the famous chocolate biscuit cake?
It's something my mum used to make when we were young, and when I started cooking for William and Harry, I was keen that they should have it for a treat as well. So it was really exciting to read in the press that's something that William had chosen for his groom's cake.
You mentioned before that sometimes the boys would come and help you in the kitchen. Would they ever help you with this cake?
Breaking up the cookies is always a job that children enjoy doing. William and Harry came up with some very creative ways of doing that. Things like that were really lovely. It brought a great lightness to the day.
Now, it wasn't just family meals that you were preparing for. There were also state visits, royal engagements, and of course, famous guests. What are some of the biggest names you remember cooking for?
Elton John springs to mind, Barbara Streisand, and Stephen Fry was a regular guest, Emma Thompson. But I think the most memorable guest of all, perhaps, was the Dalai Lama, who came for lunch. I think it was very simple, just everything straight from the garden.
Press intrusion was a very serious issue for the family. Was that something that affected your life and your work as well?
I remember one occasion when Prince Charles was in hospital. He'd broken his arm playing polo, and I went up to the hospital to cook for him. The reason for that was so that there was no extra stress put on the National Health Service, and very soon after arriving there were press photographers swarming all around the car, and it was reported that this was a real extravagance, that His Royal Highness should be taking his chef with him, and actually it was quite the opposite. At that point I just realised how difficult it must have been for them to have the press on their backs all the time and not necessarily looking for the positive in what they were doing.
The breakdown of Charles and Diana's marriage played out very publicly, but what was it like behind palace walls?
I was aware of it mostly through what I read in the press, which was really quite sad. They were very professional about everything, and everything was kept completely normal for the sake of William and Harry. And when they separated, I continued cooking for Prince Charles. I was living at Kensington Palace and saw Princess Diana a lot, which was lovely.
You got to watch William and Harry grow up right in front of you. Do you see some of the qualities that you saw in them as kids in the men that they are today?
Yes, very little's changed really. As little boys, they had such remarkable quality. They were always so interested in what you were doing, which I think is really unusual for a child. They're both so warm and so caring, and I think that's why people love them so much, and they're so incredibly good at what they do.